All right. Well, welcome everybody. We are super excited to be hosting our next installment of the Transflo Partnership Series. Today, we're joined by AtoB, and our discussion today is taking control of fuel costs with AtoB. Especially in a volatile fuel market, a smarter card and a smarter partnership is always helpful. I want to start off today by going through some housekeeping items. So once again, thank you for joining us. As we begin, questions are of course welcomed and encouraged. Submit them as you think of them. Our presenters will answer them at the end. We do have a Q&A button at the bottom, but you can also use the chat to interact with the team. And then a session recording will be available after the conclusion of our webinar. Today, we're joined by AtoB, and I want to introduce myself. My name is Frank Ambino. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Transflo, and we have Ayushi Primek at the AtoB team. Ayushi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Ayushi Pramanik, and I work on the business operations team at AtoB, primarily on our merchant partnerships.
Thank you. So on the agenda today, we have the fuel cost problem, really talking through what we're experiencing in the market today and how AtoB has responded. From there, our partnership together, we've developed a really comprehensive and powerful fuel card that transitions away from legacy fuel cards in the market. We'll also explain how this fuel card is made available inside one cohesive environment through Transflo Mobile and how you can get started today. So without any further ado, let's go through the fuel cost problem that we're all experiencing. So diesel right now is, I think we all feel it at the pumps, whether it's a personal vehicle or commercial vehicle, that we see fuel costs are rising. As of right now, the national fuel price is about 49% above the EIA's Q1 forecast. And ending in April, it was a national average of $5.35 per gallon. Today, that cost is actually about 7% higher than it was at the creation of this presentation. So we're seeing national averages about 560. And we'll actually talk through in a bit about some of the regional pricing really skyrocketing across the US. As we look through, the retail diesel year over year really has jumped up dramatically. From this time about last year, we were at 360. Today, we're about $1.75 more per gallon at about 535. Again, about 7% higher than that today, depending on where you are located within the US. On average, a 25 truck fleet, we're seeing about 26,000 a month in fuel costs, which is really substantial. It's a pain point that I think most of our industry is feeling in real time. From here, the national averages really have a wide regional spread. So you can see California is seeing pricing that's well over $7 a gallon for diesel, whereas something inside the East Coast, West Coast is maybe a little bit less than that, but again, still dramatically higher than what we were seeing this time last year. From this, really what we want to see is how do we interact with these fuel prices? How do we end up solving this fuel problem? And from here, really what we see is that 97% of factoring account managers say that this is a cash flow problem. Payment terms 45 to 90 days, some even push to 120. And what carriers need is 7 to 14 days to cover those fuel and payroll maintenance fees. So when diesel jumps in this window, fleets fold. This is one of the #1 problems that carriers are reporting today. Demand is surging, but credit lines aren't. And this is where we see that delta between what fleets need and what we are seeing in the market. We see a 23.3% year over year surge in spot load from late years past coming from freight waves. 12 of the 13 weeks of flatbed spot rates have increased, and on average, a 5,000 weekly card limit. So what we're seeing is these really double-digit freight inflation rates in Q2. Again, these are real pains felt in real time by a freight. 6 and up small carrier bankruptcies in March. 57 trucks was the largest Chapter 11 that we saw from any company in April. So just a month ago, of the largest fleet that went under was 57 trucks. And again, the volatility is really where we see that this spread can affect a lot of carriers. 5 to 10% fleet fuel spend lost to fraud and theft. And then we see that number about 1.2 billion inside freight losses from fuel and theft and fraud. So from here, we need to ask ourselves, how do we respond? And with that, I'm going to spin this over to Ayushi.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So AtoB saw these surging diesel prices, and kind of the first thing we did is we ran a proactive review across our customer base and flagged, several accounts where weekly credit limits that we saw were getting cut by, these rising prices. And so what we did is we extended credit lines automatically. There was no kind of application process, no, submit your last 3 months of statements, no back and forth with underwriting. We kind of automatically, did a review, and thousands of fleets got an extension within days, not even weeks. And this shows most fuel cards are pretty passive, just a card and a portal, but we sort of treat the data as, the customer's data and use it to act on their behalf, and saw kind of a pretty big impact from this. Next slide, Frank. Yeah, so the second pretty big thing we did when we saw rising prices was we reinforced discounts for customers, especially where we saw that the network, was hurting for many of our carriers. So 42 cents is the realized average discount per gallon on truck diesel at all of our merchant partner truck stops as of the second half of 2025. And we made sure that, we kept this average consistent and even increased it slightly. I think now it's about 45 cents per gallon, with a maximum per gallon discount of $2 at, high frequency stations for these carriers. And we also don't have a limit on discounted gallons. There's no kind of 5 to 6K cap on discounted gallons, which tends to happen with many legacy cards. We have no limit on discounted gallons, so carriers are able to take advantage of maximum savings, especially in a time when prices are high. And just to kind of put this into context, for a 25 truck fleet at say 15,000 gallons a month, that's about 75.6K a year in realized savings for this fleet, which is, not an insignificant amount of savings.
And those savings really stack up as you start to see larger fleets take advantage of these discounts.
Totally. Yeah. And if you go to the next slide, you can actually see that. So, this sort of shows annual fuel savings for a variety of fleet sizes. And so, for 5 trucks, still not insignificant. You get 15,000 about dollars a year in savings. But if you scale that up to, 250 trucks in a fleet, you see $756,000 a year in realized savings at that 42 cents per gallon average discount. And so, pretty significant amount of savings, especially as you scale up. And this is real working capital relief for these fleets, especially in this time of rising prices. Yeah, so kind of to recap, most fuel cards are pretty passive. The market moves and you're kind of stuck on your own, but our view is pretty different. A fuel card partner sees thousands of fleets fueling in real time. For us, that means that data belongs to the customer. And so we've used it to extend credit before, it causes an issue for these fleets, reinforce discounts where they matter, and surface fraud as well before it shows up on a statement. And so, it's the same diesel price for everyone, but the difference is kind of who's paying attention on your behalf. And AtoB is definitely a partner that pays attention.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'll move it back over to Frank to talk
Yeah.
about the Transflo card.
And this is what we're really excited about. So when we power Transflo and we partnership with AtoB and we have these amazing technologies, really what we see is a synergy of major proportions. So we do see that 42 cents average discount per gallon, all the way up to a max discount of $2 per gallon. No hidden fees, right? That's the biggest thing is just transparency, that we have a fee breakdown, that there's no hidden fees, nothing that's going to ever catch anyone off surprise. And when we were putting this offering together, I think the thing that stood out to me was how expansive the truck stop network was and the gas station network that is available to these carriers. So 2,000 truck stops nationwide and over 20,000 gas stations. An average support response of about 29 seconds. So if your driver gets there, if there's something less than a minute, we can get them all situated and make sure that we have all answers, everything situated. And then, of course, quick applications, right? No one wants to be waiting, weeks and weeks for something to be pending. So we try to get the application in and pretty done and very quickly. So it only takes about 5 minutes to apply. Um, let's take a look at some of the fees here, or lack thereof, I should say.
Yeah, so if you look, in comparison to many legacy fuel cards in the space, we have little to no fees. There's no per transaction fees and no out of network fees, compared to, anywhere from $10 to $15 for each of those on other cards. Our late payment fee as well, there's a $50 minimum, which we surfaced pretty clearly from the sort of beginning of the program compared to up to $125 per late payment on other card programs. And then, as mentioned previously, we have no cap on discounted gallons, so fleets are able to tap into maximum savings, especially in a time of high prices. And then we have pretty proactive reviews of our credit lines to offer extensions to these fleets, and they go into effect automatically. There's no sort of delay, there's no paperwork that needs to be done in order to both review and implement credit extensions. We kind of do it in real time.
And that proactivity is something that I think really stands out as well, really trying to make sure that there's a net of A to B looking after customers here. And on the Transflo side, this is something that we continue as we keep everything proactively within the Transflo mobile app. This is really for the driver experience because, again, we don't want drivers to be distracted. We don't want them having to flip between different applications, trying to figure out where they need to be. So we keep everything kind of in one spot to make sure that their day is managed in one place. So within the Transflo Mobile Plus app, we do have Fuel Finder that will allow the lowest cost network to where they can stop for those fuel. It auto syncs within the Transflo network, so that way everything is inside the dashboards that are already being used. And then, of course, per driver spend controls. I think this is the thing that a lot of carriers really want to refine as well is if we know certain routes, we know that there are certain things that we can lock those controls in to make sure that we do see consistency and we make sure that there is that limit put on as needed. So this allows us to really manage everything within one spot and then really set parameters for the fleet to stay in control of their operational costs related to fuel. So let's talk a little bit about this new feature. I'm gonna pass this back over to you for a second.
Yeah. So we have a new feature that we recently launched on the Transflo fuel card called Trip Advance. So cardholders can now access up to $3,000 in instant capital before kind of getting on the road. And this can help you cover, fuel, permits, and any on the road expenses in the moment that you need it. And so in addition to, saving significantly on fuel with discounts up to $2 per gallon at stations across the nation, you can pretty easily get a trip advance almost instantly and, be able to cover any costs as well. So just added savings and added security for fleets on the road, especially in times of crisis.
Absolutely. And again, knowing that today's market is very volatile, I think this is going to be a major help for a lot of fleets that are hitting the road and just anyone that needs that a little bit of extra assistance ahead of time. And then, so we talked about how to get started, right? So there's great features, great opportunities here. And then the question is, well, where do we start? So it always starts with the application, again, about 5 minutes, available through Transflo Mobile or AtoB. Once you apply, you'll get your decision, card gets activated, and you're ready to rock and roll and immediately make use of those savings and instant discounts across the entire truck stop network that AtoB offers. So what you would need in the application process, again, in the spirit of full transparency, social security number, your employer identification number, driver's license, and the 3 months of business revenue proof. No credit check on the prepaid option as well. And then a weekly credit line also made available through AtoB. And then I think we've wrapped up pretty much all that we wanted. So at this point, we'll definitely offer any questions, answers that we can provide to the team. So please feel free to drop those inside the Q&A. I think we knocked it out of the park.
No questions. Crazy.
All right, well, perfect. With that, I want to wish everyone a great day and keep on trucking.
Thanks, everyone.